right, welcome everyone. Gay, let me know when you think everyone has joined and we will get started.
Everyone is in except Mike Snelling is having some joining problems.
All right, well, let's give Mike a few seconds. It is September 14th, everyone. Happy Monday.
Wow.
Here we are at the beginning of a week and we're getting ready to take you through all the steps of Cycle 2 for the CalAPA, the California Administrative Performance Assessment. All right, so welcome to all, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So let's move to our next slide, please. And Lori, I'll turn it to you to just acclimate everyone to the presentation and to the materials that they need for today.
All right, thank you, Gay. And hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori Thornley. And today we are going to be walking through in detail CalAPA Cycle 2. And so it would be helpful if you have a copy of the CalAPA Cycle 2 guide to have that out so that you can
Actually, Lori, you're muted right now. This is the interpreter. I can't hear you. You've been muted.
Of course I have. Thank you. I'm sorry, folks. Again, hello, my name is Lori Thornley, and I wanted to, we will be going through the CalAPA Cycle 2 assessment guide today. And before we get started, we want to make sure everybody has access to that document. And so I am posting in the chat window a URL to the CalAPA faculty resource webpage, and I'll show that also on the screen. If you haven't downloaded the document before, it is located on in a downloadable zip file on the CalAPA faculty resources webpage. That's the link that I put in the window. If you scroll down to assessment materials, there is a link to download a zip file. That zip file is password protected, and so I have also included the password in the chat window. Go ahead and download that and pull up a copy of the Cycle 2 guide in case you want to take notes as we go along today. And I will bring us back to our slide presentation.
Great, thank you, Lori.
And hand it off to you, Amy.
Yes, so we do really want to make sure that you are aware that we're going to be walking through the guide in some detail, and we'd like you to have it in front of you or up on a second screen. So we'll pause for a few seconds here and make sure that you all have time to either print it out or pull it up and download it.
And if you're going to print it out, perhaps grab a highlighter.
And yes, Lori, you want to explain about the password?
Yes, the file is password protected. I will paste the password in the chat window again. It is case sensitive.
Also, if you would for us, please put your name and affiliation in the chat here in the first few minutes as we're getting started so that we can know who attended today and who is participating. And it does help us for you to keep your screen on if your internet is stable so that we know as we scroll through participants that you're with us and participating. Thank you. All right, on the screen in front of us, we have our agenda. We are going to make sure that we introduce everyone. Then we will discuss webinar norms for how we will conduct our work with you today in this online Zoom meeting space. We'll then go into that CalAPA Cycle 2 deep dive by going directly into the assessment guide that Lori just told you how to access. We will then take a quick 5-minute stretch break. And if we're making good time, we might even be able to take a 10-minute break. We do understand that we are all on Zoom now and we need to take our breaks so that we can continue to participate. Then we will come back after the break and together talk about tips for completing CalAPA Cycle 2, things that we have learned across this past several years as we have become operational and candidates have been engaging with the assessment. We will finish up our time with you today by looking at CalAPA assessment materials and making sure you know how to have access to all of them. And then, of course, program supports that will be coming your way as we move into the fall. So let's start with introductions. My name is Amy Rising. I'm the Director of Performance Assessment Policy and Development. It's great to be with you today. I'm joined by my colleague, Gay Roby. Gay?
Yeah, good afternoon and welcome to our deep dive into Cycle 2. And again, if you've printed out the document, you might want to have a pen and pencil and a highlighter handy with you.
Great, thank you, Gay. And James Webb is our other performance assessment consultant. He's actually working on the special education version of the CalTPA this afternoon, and so will not join us, but we thought it was important for you to understand who's on our performance assessment team. All right, let's go to the next slide, please. I'm going to turn it over to Lori Thornley, who is with Evaluation Systems. Evaluation Systems is our technical contractor on this project. And so Lori, would you like to say hello and introduce our interpreters that are with us today?
Thank you, Amy, and hello again. My name is Lori Thornley. I am with Evaluation Systems. I will be assisting Amy and Gay in facilitating today's webinar. I want to introduce, we do have two interpreters with us today, Christopher, and I apologize, Christopher, if I butcher your name, but Wooler, and Katie Rickard. And for those who are relying on their services, if you're unfamiliar with the Zoom platform, you can pin their video images to the top of your screen so that they always appear by selecting the 3 dots in their video picture and clicking on those 3 dots. A drop-down menu comes up and there's an option to pin their video. So.
All right, thank you, Lori. So let's go to our next slide. Just we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to introduce you to our lead assessor, Kitty Fortner, who will be joining us in this presentation and providing all those tips to support candidates. Kitty, would you like to say hello?
Sure, Amy, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited that you're here, and I'm hoping we can help you to have a successful year this year with CalAPA and Cycle 2.
Thank you, Kitty. We're excited to have you with us. And with that, let's continue on to our webinar norms. So again, because we will be working together in this virtual space on Zoom, we have a few guidelines that we would like you to pay attention to as you spend your time with us this afternoon. So the first is we want you to know that we have muted your microphone. And if we call on you to speak or you would like to speak, you need to let us know, and then the moderator will unmute your microphone. This just really helps us cut down on any peripheral noise. The second point is that we will respond to questions periodically during the presentation, but we would like your questions to please stay on topic. We do have additional office hours and email, and both of these options are available for you to get in touch with us with additional questions that may be more program related or fall beyond the scope and sequence of this presentation. We will explain how you can get to office hours and how you can be in touch with us beyond today. Next, we would like you to pose questions, as I just said, that are on topic of the agenda as we move through, and we will pause periodically to answer them. Fourth, please do avoid multitasking during the webinar so that you can hear all the information that is presented and really take advantage of the time that you have with us today. I know that we're all super busy. It's very easy to get distracted by your phone. We have found it's helpful to close other browsers and things like that so that you can really focus on the presentation before you. Thank you for doing that. And then finally, let's all make sure that we honor time for both participants and presenters by moderating our own participation. Let others share the space, let all voices be heard, etc. So we appreciate your consideration of allowing everyone to be present and to participate. So those are our norms for today. Next slide, please.
So we're going to start with a CalAPA overview at a like 10,000 foot level before we come down and land the plane on the ground. So just to start out, we have 3 leadership cycles, we like to call them, and comparing to the TPA, which are teaching cycles. Leadership cycle 1 talks about data, and the title's Analyzing Data to Inform School Improvement and Promote Equity. Leadership cycle 2, which is what we're here for today, is about facilitating communities of practice. And finally, leadership cycle 3 is supporting teacher growth. All 3 of our cycles use a reiterative cycle of steps. So you will see cycle 1, investigate. Steps 1, investigate. Step 2 is plan. Step 3, act. And step 4 is reflect. It's always, the next slide please, it's always challenging to introduce a cycle. So we offer you some tips in the very beginning, which is good for almost all of our cycles. The contents of the cycles are presented in 3 ways. First of all, there is an overview. It's the 1-pager that has the graphic on it as well, that really gives you the higher elevation level. Then secondly, we have an evidence table. It has 3 columns in it. The first column tells you which step you are in, the plan, the act, the investigate, the reflect piece, not in order. The middle column is a bulleted list of the steps. And then the final 3rd column lists the evidence pieces that are used during that step. However, that is followed by a step-by-step version of that guide that tells in very minute detail with some call-out boxes with extra helpful hints. So there are 3 ways to keep looking at it. And I guess you could even say a 4th way if you look at our rubrics with their essential questions. And we would encourage you to find creative ways to cover the materials. Getting into it is always difficult, but yet we find the most common thing that our candidates do not do is read the cycle. So perhaps you might want to have them individually read this overview. When they come to the evidence guide, have them create a poster or 1-pager. What is the evidence guide about? And then perhaps break into small groups to outline the steps, presenting that to the rest of the class. Just something hands-on so they make sure they go through that information. Next slide. Continuing our tips for introducing cycle 2. There are blue call-out boxes throughout the text, and they really do add illuminating details. It helps them understand that all of the boxes have been checked, so to speak, for the submissions. And it's worth spending some time in discussing their contents as you come across them. And then finally, introduce your candidates to what the heck does it mean to have a rubric-based scoring system. And then we add some things that you might talk about and you're defining your rubric-based scoring system, the structure of it with the 5 different levels, the essential question, which is written at the top of the rubric, as well as in that middle level 3. We use both and the word or. What's the difference between the 2? There are different pieces within the levels. We call those constructs. And then finally, the footer information tells you what CAPE, as well as the narrative pieces or video clips, what's the evidence that's going to be used. So helping them understand how the system is based and what a rubric looks like is very helpful when they're being introduced to a cycle. And then finally, Kitty's going to be working with building the cycle submission as we go through this. And we'll have this graphic that you will see many times through that talks about the steps and the pieces within. So you flow through this chart and end up with a wonderful submission that will, of course, receive a passing grade.
All right, and that brings us into cycle 2. And again, we do encourage you to have a hard copy and a highlighter so you can make notes, or have it up on another screen and you can make notes. We will go right now into the actual assessment guide and walk through it with you. This is the assessment guide that the candidate receives upon registering for the assessment. And we will look at the preamble, just quickly move through the table of contents, and then get into the overview. And each step is presented in multiple ways that Gay just explained. So this is what the front of the registration assessment guide looks like. You can see it says Leadership Cycle 2. And what's really important is down here in this red text, and Lori, you may want to make this a little bit larger. Those of you who are watching, if you have your chat screen up, you may want to put it away because it gives you a larger visual of the guide. So right here at the bottom of the photograph, you see in red letters version 03. This is the version for the 3rd operational year, and the one that candidates and program faculty and those instructors that support candidates should be using. Each year we find a few things that we can make more clear for our candidates, and so we update our materials. So this is important to note. Next year, this guide will have on it version 04, because we certainly will find probably a few more things that we can make more clear. So just take a note. You should be using these materials, version 3, for this year for APA Cycle 2. The next thing I want to just point out is that there is a preamble here provided that is included in all of our performance assessment work. And this is very important to make note that we believe deeply in effective educational leaders strive for educational opportunities that are driven by equity and culturally responsive practices to promote each student's academic success and well-being. And we just wanted to point out as well that when we refer to all students in this document, or all TK-12 students, all TK to 22 students, actually, because our education specialist teachers work with students up to the age of 22, that that term is inclusive and means all students attending schools, public schools in California, and those private schools that also use the California content standards. Students could exhibit a wide range of learning and behavioral characteristics, and we provide a long list of supports. And of course, the range of students in California also includes students whose first language is English, English learners, and standard English learners. So again, just wanting to point out that when the term all students is used, that it applies whenever and wherever the term all students is used, and that is in the CAPE as well as in this document. We have our classic table of contents that will help you find the section you want. And then just a quick acknowledgement to all of the educators that worked with us. We worked with a design team for over 2 years, and this assessment has been pilot tested and field tested by many other educators, and of course many have come alongside and scored. So just a whole community of learners working together to develop and then implement and score this performance assessment. So that leads us then into the overview. In this section, you see those 4 steps again: investigate, which is where we start at that school site, of understanding the school site and the community that attends school there, a plan, phase, an act, and then wrapping it all up with reflecting on practice. So 4 key steps. And this is true in cycle 1, cycle 2, and cycle 3. So the overview just provides a high-level review of what's happening in this leadership cycle. And when you see words that are blue and underlined, if you click on those, if you're in the online version, it will take you right into our glossary. Very important. I think Gay mentioned this earlier, and that is the point, that language is used in a particular way in these performance assessments, and we want our candidates to understand how language is being used, and so we provide a glossary. So let's keep going. She also mentioned these important pullout boxes. So here is our first one. Equity gap findings from cycle 1 could inform the focus of the work in cycle 2. So while these cycles are separate and candidates must pass each cycle, they can be related to each other. So let's keep going. In our overview, we provide this great graphic. And again, we've already shown this to you in our slides. But at the very highest level, what is happening in cycle 2? The candidate selects an area of educational focus based on data, of course. They then determine a problem of practice and think about root causes, and they pick a strategy. They then, with their community of practice colleagues, implement in a co-facilitated way the strategy. They collect early findings and monitor effectiveness, which is the final step. So that's the biggest picture explanation, and now we will start diving into the details. So the next set of steps here in the text provide the candidate, again, a little bit of a bird's eye view here about what's going to happen in Investigate. They're going to inquire about and describe the current context, culture, and practice of a collaborative professional learning and/or communities of practice at the school site. Remember, these cycles are done at a school. And then 2, in planning, they'll meet with that group they've identified and collaboratively, very important word, you'll want to highlight that, choose, based on school data and educational focus, one problem of practice to improve student learning and/or well-being, and then facilitate the group meeting so that they can choose one relevant evidence-based strategy to implement. In step 3, act at the high level, they will then enact that strategy and begin to bring those early findings back, and they will be video recording these implementation meetings. And then finally in step 4, the candidate steps back and considers what has happened in steps 1, 2, and 3. And they have a choice here. They can either write their response to us in step 4, or they can video record themselves responding verbally to the prompts. So that takes us then to another call-out box, which is important. A community of practice is a group of people who share a concern or a passion for something they do and learn how to do it better as they interact regularly. The next page brings us into the evidence table. And yet again, this is the same information, but just laid out in a slightly different format for those candidates that like tables. So you see on the far left, step 1, investigate. In the middle column, you see what the candidate needs to do, broken out now into 3 bullets. And then on the far right, you see under each of the parts the evidence that the candidate will create to respond to each step. So in step 1, investigate, the candidate will respond to a written narrative and tell us about the context, their area of educational focus, and the community of practice at the school site at which they're working, and so on across this table. Then there's step 2 with that information, step 3, and step 4 on the following page. And then that brings us into our first step of cycle 1. And I'll turn it over to Gay.
Thank you. Cycle 1 is always our investigate. And if you happen to be a CASC program director who is welcoming an employee in who has yet to finish their CalAPA cycles, we would suggest that investigate is a good into as they're getting used to their new job, new positioning, new context at a school. And investigate is appropriate for the first 3 months or so while they are working with you. we're always interested into what is. So Roman numeral 1 is the inquiry into what is collaborative professional learning at the school. So candidates are asked to look at the professional learning context. You'll see as we go further down on page 6, that the template questions are provided for you. Describe and analyze the role, and sub-bullets A, B, C, and D. And then at the end, they're asked, as a result of the investigation and the context of the school, describe the most important issues you will need to consider as you prepare to take a group, a community of practice, and co-facilitate with them to engage in some kind of professional learning that will better this problem of practice. We're moving on to page 7, Roman numeral 2. Ask them, coming down that triangle again, to select an area of educational focus based on the data, and then they would establish a community of practice. So first of all, you're going to look at an area of educational focus based both on data as well as guidance from the school administrators to identify where is someplace that there is a problem that could be addressed by this group. The educational focus, as Amy said earlier, and we're in the call out box at the top there, can be one that you identified in cycle 1. It may also be one that you want to start fresh on and do in cycle 2. Next, you need to find a group of educators, a group of 3 to 5, although they're not limited to that number. We suggest 3 as a minimum, but they can go as high as they wish. And that's in addition to the candidate to form a new community of practice or to join one that already exists so that they can take a community who's already working on a problem and join that group. Make sure that, get in the second call out box, follow all district policies regarding the video recording of individuals. And it is the candidate's responsibility to obtain the appropriate permissions from all individuals who appear in the video clips. That's student and adult alike. The template that is provided to them asks for 5 different questions. Describe the area of educational focus, and then a little bit about the actual members. What are the job titles for each member of the group? What is their relationship or their positionality to the others in the group? What is the group member's demographics? How does it reflect the school's demographic? And then why did you obtain these people to be a part of your group? How you obtained that and the reasons for agreeing to participate. And then on the top of page 8, the evidence for this part, investigate, is all the written narrative, and that includes the context of the learning, professional learning in the school, the area of educational focus, identifying the community of practice. And candidates are limited to no more than 5 pages. If it goes over the 5 pages, then we ask our assessors to not read beyond the 5th page. And that takes us back to step 2, no, goes on to Kitty, sorry. Back to our slides to talk a little bit about, as I said, that's the nuts and the bolts what we gave you, or we say the mannequin. Now Kitty is going to provide the dressing on the mannequin and give you some tips and real live practitioner ideas about how to implement this part of the cycle.
So thank you, Gay. So as we think about what faculty and instructors need to do to prepare our students, I'm going to hopefully share a few tips that will help you to have a stronger candidate submission. So the next slide. I know that you've seen this slide already a couple of times, and you're going to see it over and over, and it's going to help us to just move through the cycle. One of the things I'd like to bring your attention to on this slide, and we're going to start with the investigate. We're starting from broad and we're going to narrow. So the broad piece of this is that area of educational educational focus. And so when students are investigating what's taking place on their campus, you can go to the next slide. When they're investigating what's taking place on their campus, they're looking at collaborative and professional development. What kinds of collaborative practices and professional development? They're going to talk about those in detail. They're going to give some history, and they're going to connect this to either student learning or student well-being on that campus. Again, it is attached to a site, a school campus. When they're considering their educational focus, it is also attached to data. So they need to have looked at some data and come up with an idea and see a gap, and that's what they would like to focus on. When they talk about their educational focus, it's broad. It is, again, broad. We're still at that very broad area for student well-being or student academic achievement. So it could be as broad as math, math scores, math academics. It could be English language arts academics. It could be writing, but it's going to be a broad topic. It's not narrowed at this point. We're just thinking of an educational focus in where we see a gap or we see a need for students. When they're thinking about the understanding of their community of practice, there needs to be 3 to 5 people as a part of that community of practice. Again, I'm going to refer back to all of the rubrics as I'm sharing with you information. So if candidates don't have these things, it lowers their scores. And I think Gay already said it, but we always start at that rubric level 3. So looking at rubric level 3 to make sure that we touch on each one of those points. So 3 to 5 people in their community of practice, giving good demographic descriptions of them, looking at their collaborative and professional development that's taking collaborative work and professional development that's taking place on their campus, and then looking at a broad overarching educational focus. And that's what we're looking at in step 1.
Great, thank you, Kitty. And then Gay, let's just make sure that we also take a look at what we're measuring in step 1 by looking at our essential questions. So Lori, if you want to pull up the page in the guide that lists the 7 essential questions for cycle 2.
Which is about page 12, I would guess. So as soon as I get there, I'll let you know. It's a little further.
Mm-hmm.
It is page 17.
There you go.
And there are 2 rubrics in step 1, investigate. The first one asks, how does the candidate describe and analyze the role of current practices of professional collaboration at the school that they have selected? And it has to relate back to student learning and or well-being. Then rubric 2.2 talks about the candidates selecting an area of educational focus. Is it relate back to student data? Did the group of educators that was chosen to work with them were they also involved in the selection of this educational focus about student learning and well-being? And again, linking back this time to the school's vision, mission, and our goals. Thank you, Lori.
All right, so that is step 1, investigate, and that is what we are measuring in step 1. And in a little bit in the presentation, we'll take a closer look at the analytic rubric. But let's go on to step 2, which is all about planning. So the candidate in the first step is going to conduct a planning meeting to collaboratively select a probable practice based on student and school data. So the candidate prepares an agenda for the planning meeting, and they submit the agenda for the planning meeting. Then they conduct and co-facilitate the meeting with the group members' active involvement. They look at data, including student demographics,